I think Flashforge may have just solved one of the most annoying problems in 3D printing, because unlike most other multicolour systems we've seen over the last few years, this thing doesn't constantly throw half your filament in the bin. So if you're coming from a single nozzle AMS type of setup, the difference is kind of shocking. So after weeks of hype online, today we're finally going to find out whether the Flashforge Creator 5 is genuinely the future of multi-material printing, or if it's just another over-engineered gimmick. Now, I know before we go any further, I know what you're going to be thinking or typing in the comments at this point. So what? We have the Snapmaker U1. This is just a cheap copy. Well, we'll come to that in the next video, where I'll do a full side-by-side comparison against the Snapmaker U1. In this video, we'll just concentrate on the Creator 5. Now on paper, the Creator 5 sounds almost too good to be true for the price of just $699 or 619 UK pounds for a dedicated tool changer. That's significantly cheaper than the Snapmaker U1, and it's priced at the point where it makes a single nozzle system like the Bambu Lab P2S, for example, look like last year's tech. Because instead of just constantly flushing filament every time the colour changes, Flashforge has gone with 4 completely separate tool heads, and that changes everything at this price point. Traditional AMS style systems work by feeding different filaments through the same nozzle, so every single colour change creates waste by purging that single nozzle, which can often mean use more filament in actual purge and waste than the print itself uses. That's wasteful both environmentally and financially. The Creator 5 avoids all that by physically swapping entire print heads instead. So instead of purging filament constantly, it just changes tools. This means you get much less waste, faster colour or material changes, and cleaner support interfaces if you use different materials for support. Until recently, tool changes have been quite expensive and needed lots of hands-on input to get the best out of them. So the real question here isn't can it print, it's actually can Flashforge make this practical enough for normal people to live with. And honestly, after getting this thing out of the box, I already started noticing some very interesting decisions. Now I've gone through a few printers in my time, and I have to say, this has impressed me with how easy it is to set up. Flashforge seems to have actually thought this from a consumer point of view, and it's almost appliance-like to set it up. Just remove it from its box, remove the internal packaging and the box holding the accessories, take the tool head assembly from its box. Yes, it's actually all assembled for you, ready just to use. Are you listening, Snapmaker? You just clip it into place, press 4 little shields into place that cover the heads when parked, and then clip the tool heads onto the magnets. Take the touch panel, just line it up with the connector on the printer, and it clips into place. No cables, and it only fits one way. Then just screw it into place with the 2 supplied screws. Finally, just remove the 3 bed shipping screws, and you're done with the physical unpacking and setup. The only niggle I'd say that would make this even more user-friendly would be for Flashforge to fit some big red stickers to the transit screws to make it even more obvious as to which ones should be removed before use. Other than that, it's an easy to set up machine. I've had single nozzle machines that need more hands-on setup than this. It feels almost ready to use out of the box. Now it's all assembled, let's talk about build quality and first impressions. Everything feels nice and sturdy, nicely put together. There's no obvious signs up front of corner cutting to achieve that price point. Take the touchscreen for example, it reminds me of my old X1C, where it just sticks out from the machine and is adjustable. Nice touch. The extruders themselves are compact, much smaller than the Snapmaker U1 extruders. Each one has a USB cable and a Bowden tube going to them. Now unlike other machines, there's no external connectors between the extruder and the drive head. Just another cable that goes to the carriage drive, which contains the extruder motor and fan. So both the extruder and carriage drives have their own cables, resulting in no over engineering of pogo pins or wireless NFC chips. Simple, cheap engineering to overcome the problem. Just run another cable and have a single drive motor that runs the extruder once fitted to the carriage head. Flashforge calls this system FlashSwap, and it's a simple solution which then makes you realise just how over-engineered the rival solutions are. Now let's talk specs before we get into calibrating and printing. The Creator 5 uses what is pretty much the most popular size on the market, 256 by 256 by 256 mm. As it's an open frame printer, you will be able to print exotic materials that want a higher chamber temperature. But that's not really who this machine is for. That's where the more expensive Creator 5 Pro option comes in, and we'll cover that in a future video. Having said that, it's still got a max bed temperature of 120 degrees, and the hot end will reach 320 degrees. That's more than some enclosed high-end models. One thing to notice, there's no AI monitoring here. Although, to be honest, is that really a bad thing, knowing how pants it can be sometimes on other machines? Pausing at the slightest, imagining a thing, or having a tantrum. There's a USB port tucked around the side out the way, and built-in Wi-Fi. So far, everything seems to be good. Except it brings me onto another niggle. The power socket. It's on the side. Now I get why it's there, for cost cutting, as all the electronics and heads are built on the right hand side of the machine, but it could have been placed around the back easily enough, just by running a slightly longer cable internally to the PSU. But that's just nitpicking on my part. I like my power cables out the way. As with just about every other modern printer these days, running the setup is pretty much a hands-off experience. Connect to Wi-Fi, calibrations, etc. are all automated. All in all, it takes about 45 minutes to do this. Loading filaments at first might feel like a step back as there's no motoriser system here, but let me tell you, I'm surprised at just how easy it is. Just push your filament into the guide for the head that you want to feed, keep pushing it until it reaches the tool head, and then I just press in the cutter lever and push a little bit further until there's no more resistance. So that's it, just go to the menu, select the head you want to load filament into, tell it what filament is loaded, and then it will just take in the filament and purge you a little bundle of joy. So that brings me to another niggle. The filament just dumps down to the bottom of the machine. That's not the niggle itself, it's just it feels like it's purging a lot more material than it needs to. I'm sure this will be addressed at some point in the firmware. Flashforge is using its own skinned version of Orca Slicer. I'm not going to go into massive detail here, it's just a cut down version of Orca Slicer and it does what you need. You don't even need to use the Flashforge version if you don't want, as Flashforge profiles are available for the normal version. As is the norm these days, there's also a mobile app for printer status and so on. I have to say, I never use these apps on any of my machines, so I won't go any further into this, but it's there if you like that sort of thing. The UI could maybe do with a little bit of polish to brighten things up a bit in terms of maybe icons and fonts, but at this point, it's perfectly acceptable. Maybe give the UI a little bit more wow factor for the Pro Flashforge, just a thought. Prints are where this machine shines though. Printing a multicolour print, even in just two colours, is much faster than on a single nozzle machine. The FlashSwap system changes heads in about 7 seconds. Yes, you still have a prime tower, but that's a small price to pay to get a decent print. The machine's loaded with a couple of files. This is the 4-colour Benchy, just to give you an example. And then this is one of the larger prints that I've done, which you'll see more details of in my future video versus the Snapmaker. So what are my thoughts? Well, honestly, I cannot see why you would now buy a single nozzle AMS based machine at this price point when you could have this for the same money. It's handled everything I've thrown at it so far in the past 50 plus hours of printing. Clearly, time will tell, but so far, things are good and the market is moving in the right direction. And in my mind, some things have been done better than the competition. You'll see what I mean in my upcoming Snapmaker U1 comparison video. So make sure you hit subscribe and I'll see you in the next one.